Oh, this is a good control.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. Evening, everybody. We started last week to discuss Nishmat, and Colin Richmond was here and told us the amazing story that perhaps Nishmat Kol Chai was written by none other than the Apostle Saint Paul. No, not Paul. Peter. Saint Peter. Yeah, Peter. I have to admit, I'd never heard that story before, and I was very intrigued by it. And I have done some more research with the help of Colin, and we're gonna go through a bit very shortly. It's a fascinating whole story. But before I do, since we were speaking a couple of weeks ago about the
You keep freezing, Johnny.
prayer for the welfare of the state, I found no, it's not true. I didn't find somebody. Well, lots of people have a habit of dumping stuff either at my house or at the shul, stuff they don't want, and they think that I might want, or I might get rid of them for them. And most of it needs to go to the Geniza. But I found amongst something that was dumped somewhere, either in my house, I don't remember whether it was in shul or in the house. I found the most fascinating little booklet, which is sort of connected to the prayer for the king, because actually, and I'm referring to this little booklet here I'm showing in front of the camera. It's very old, as you can see.
Is that from England?
I'll show you in a sec. It's very old, and I'm going to pass it around. What you can't see, because it's very, very worn out, but you can just about see it. It's called Prayer Book for Jewish Sailors and Soldiers.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
I'm going to show it round in a minute.
Well, my brother had one of those.
I don't think he had this one. He might have done, but I doubt he had this one. Hang on a sec. Just turn my camera off. Turn my phone off. Sorry, I'll just put it on silent. So let me tell you about this little booklet that was dumped, and is a fascinating little booklet. So I opened it up, and the first thing I saw is a prayer book for Jewish sailors and soldiers. This is the enlarged edition, not very big, but it's called the enlarged edition, issued by His Majesty's Stationery Office with the authority of the Chief Rabbi, 5677. Go on. What year was 5677, Lionel?
1967? 1967.
1917.
Oh,
The clue is very simple how you convert it. Add 40 to the 77. So today is 5786, right? Add 40, 26. Yeah?
yeah.
So, so 1917. So, no, not yet. 1917. I just want to get this off my chest first. This was published in 1917. What was going on in 1917? First World War. So this was a booklet that was sent out to the Jewish soldiers and sailors in the First World War. Yes, Hannah.
I was reading the life of the Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim was very concerned about Jews all over the place. And one of his early concerns was the Jewish soldier who was conscripted into the Russian army, etc. And he actually wrote a Machzor or a Siddur for Jewish soldiers in the army. And I'm not wondering whether these things could possibly have been, because it was before 1917 that he would have written that.
Possibly.
These things could be connected.
It could be connected.
And maybe also translated into English.
It could be. I'm not sure, though, because I'll tell you what the prefatory note says. The prefatory note is written from the office of the chief rabbi in Cheshvan 5677. And just at the bottom of this page, the first edition of this was published in September 1914. So right after the beginning of the First World War. 16,000 copies were made. An enlarged edition was made in June and December 1916, another 20,000 copies. And an enlarged edition of which this is one, April 1917, another 10,000 copies. So that is 46,000 copies of this little booklet in the early part of the 20th century. That in itself is quite a number, right? When you consider
How many Jews lived in England?
yeah.
Possibly be for the Jews of the Commonwealth as well.
I assume so. I assume it was part for the Commonwealth as well. Let me read you the prefatory note. Very interesting. Shortly after the outbreak of war, the Reverend M. Adler, the senior chaplain, compiled a prayer book for Jewish sailors and soldiers. It received the sanction of the chief rabbi and has admirably met the wants of the Jewish members of His Majesty's Navy, as well as of, to use the words of Field Marshal Sir John French, the large Jewish community now serving the army in the field. Interesting to note that 46,000, I don't know how many Jews were served in the First World War, but 46,000 sounds a lot to me.
Would that be from the Jewish Legion in Palestine?
Maybe, don't know.
That's why.
Don't know. And the numbers sound a lot to me, but maybe they aren't. I don't know.
46,000. Because, I mean, you've got families. If you had, let's say, 500,000 Jews in England.
Nowhere near. You've never had never.
There's nowhere near 46,000.
I wouldn't have thought so. But anyway,
museum for the Jewish soldiers.
Yeah, we'll look into that for the numbers. But the numbers were interesting to me. Anyway, let me carry on. Subsequently, a selection of Passover prayers was also made by the senior chaplain and of New Year and Atonement prayers by the Reverend A.A. Green. All of these, revised and corrected, have been included in this larger book, which covers the sacred occasions of the year. By kind permission of the Jewish Religious Education Board, the text of the authorized daily prayer book has been used. A prayer for recovery from sickness by the chief rabbi, a memorial prayer for those fallen in battle, and metrical versions of Adon Olam and Yigdal by Mrs. Henry Lucas have been introduced in the present edition. Okay, and then there's a prayer for the soldiers and sailors in English. O Lord God of hosts, thou art our refuge and strength at all times. Unto thee we pour forth our hearts in prayer, and thou mayest be with us both in time of peace and of war. Shield us from all sorrow and hurt. Fill our hearts with courage and steadfastness, that we may perform our duty to our king and country for the honour of Israel and of the empire. Do thou gird us with victory, so that peace may speedily reign over all the earth. Into thy hands we commend our lives, for thou art our guardian and our deliverer. Okay, so that was the prayer, which includes a prayer to the king. In a way, we're saying, we are doing our duty to the king. And in the prayer book itself, there's a interesting stuff. There's a prayer before battle, before the battle. Listen to this lovely before battle. Avinu shebashamayim, our Father in heaven. Aseh ritzoncha b'shamayim imal, do your will in heaven above. V'tein nachat ruach lireich amitachat, and give fear you below. V'hatov be'einecha aseh, do what is good in your eyes. Baruch atah Hashem shomei Tefilah. Blessed are you, Hashem, who listens to prayers. And then the pasuk that we say at the end of Adon Olam, and that we say before we go to sleep at night. Which pasuk am I referring to? Which pasuk is in Adon Olam and in Kriyat Shema al Hamitah, the bedtime Shema? Which pasuk? Come on, Hannah. Hannah's nearly there. No, not quite.
No.
The beginning of the pasuk, at least, is in Adon Olam. B'yadecha afkid ruchi. What does that mean? B'yadecha,
I will.
into your hand.
Yeah.
Afkid. What does afkid mean?
I will.
Yes.
I commend.
I was going to say, what do you do when you go into a bank? You make a picadon.
Yeah.
right? Pikadon is a deposit in the bank. Same word, afkid ruchi, into your hand. We're talking to God. Into your
I
hand,
commit my soul.
I commit my soul or my spirit.
Spirit.
I deposit my spirit with you. This is what we say before we go to bed. Pedita oti, redeem me. Okay, meaning please wake me up in the morning. Right, that's what it means. Redeem me from the death, because in fact, sleeping it's a sort of form of death, sort of.
Le petit
Right?
mort.
Yeah, le petit mort.
So
Okay.
it's not, that's not what talking
Sleep is
people.
No, what is le petit mort? Oh, for goodness sake.
Sleep is one of those things that's a 60 off.
A 60th of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
True.
biadcha afkid ruchi, into your hand I commit my spirit, pedita oti, redeem me, Hashem keil emet, God who is a truthful God. Now, that is a amazing prayer to say for a soldier when he's going out into battle. Yeah, he's basically saying, I commit my soul into your hand. Look after me, redeem me from this danger that I'm going to be in. And then two more psukim. Or what else would you think he might say as he goes out to battle?
He's not back alive.
Well, what would you say if you're going out to battle? Okay, we said that. That's what we've just said. Biyodchav kidruchi. After you've said that, what would you say? Our national anthem. And I don't mean the Hatikva. I don't mean Hatikva. What's our national anthem? Shema Yisrael. So the Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Olam Vaed. It's a declaration of our belief in the oneness of God and in the glory of God's name. So it's a beautiful prayer. This was put together. It's first of all a prayer to God saying, do what is good in your eyes, look after me, bring me back safely, and then I make my declaration, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. It's a beautiful prayer, which is before battle. And then there's a little bit of a section of a shortened version of Shachris and night. And then there's a little bit of shortened prayers. Got a shortened version of benching. These are all shortened versions, of course, because when you're in the battle, you haven't got time for long davening. So it's very interesting. And then there's prayers for the sick and the wounded, and then prayers for recovery. Special prayers for recovery after you've recovered from sickness to give thanks to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. And then, Chas v'Chalila, there is the confession on the deathbed, vidui, and what to say at the end of life. And then there's the burial service, unfortunately necessary as soldiers. And then some Tehillim, a whole bunch of Tehillim, and then a little bit of shortened davening for Yom Noraim, and a shortened book. There are there's one page, two pages, one daf, one either side, with very special prayers. And I'm going to read you them because these are prayers that you will never have heard before. The first one is a message from the king, which is what I said earlier on. We were talking about making a prayer for the king. This is a prayer that the king has written in this Jewish prayer book, right? And I think it's specifically. Yes, Johnny.
I'm just looking at something here. It says about 50,000 British Jews served in the British Armed Forces, World War One.
About 50,000.
It's in the Jewish Chronicle saying that, yeah.
Did you say 50,000, Johnny?
Yes, approximately, yes.
Well, that makes sense then. That makes sense because they printed 46,000 of these things. Yeah. So that makes sense. Sounds a heck of a lot to me, but
it's a heck of a lot. It can't be.
Listen,
if
it says so in
it was a lot.
Proper source. Johnny's checked it.
Ah.
Anyway, let me tell you what the king said. I don't think this is a specific message for the Jewish soldiers, but listen to the message that the king has allowed, if you like, to be put in Jewish prayer book. Message from the king, Buckingham Palace. You are leaving home to fight for the safety and honor of my empire. Belgium, whose country we are pledged to defend, has been attacked, and France is about to be invaded by the same powerful foe. This is written on the 9th of August 1914. I have implicit confidence in you, my soldiers. Duty is your watchword, and I know your duty will be nobly done. I shall follow your every movement with deepest interest and mark with eager satisfaction your daily progress. Indeed, your welfare will never be absent from my thoughts. I pray God to bless you and guard you and bring you back victorious. George R.I. Okay, that was the message from the king. It's an amazing little booklet, this. Yeah, it certainly shouldn't be chucked out.
Is that museum that we've got?
Yeah, maybe. Now,
But
there is also a message. There is also a message here from the late Lord Kitchener,
Oh, yeah.
Field Marshal Kitchener.
Yeah, Field Marshal, yeah.
Right? Yes. Yeah. Your country needs you. Right? Remember that finger?
Yeah.
So this is the message from the late Lord Kitchener. You were ordered abroad as a soldier of the king to help our French comrades against the invasion of a common enemy. You have to perform a task which will need your courage, your energy, your patience. Remember that the honour of the British Army depends on your individual conduct. It will be your duty not only to set an example of discipline and perfect steadiness under fire, but also to maintain the most friendly relations with those whom you are helping in this struggle, the Frenchies. The operations in which you are engaged will, for the most part, take place in a friendly country, and you can do your own country no better service than in showing yourself in France and Belgium in the true character of a British soldier. Be invariably courteous, considerate, and kind. Never do anything or destroy property, and always look upon looting as a disgraceful act. You are sure to meet with a welcome and to be trusted. Your conduct must justify that welcome and that trust. Your duty cannot be done unless your health is sound, so keep constantly on your guard against any excesses. In this new experience, you may find temptations, both in wine and women. You must entirely resist both temptations, and while treating all women with perfect courtesy, you should avoid any intimacy. Do your duty bravely, fear God, honour the king. Kitchener, Field Marshal.
5,000 Jewish soldiers in British armed forces.
How many?
50 to
So
55,000.
that is an amazing little booklet.
Could you
I
pass
want,
it around?
I want, yes, I wanted to share it with you. I think it's a splendid little thing. And since we would,
Apart from the sailor bit, because not many Jewish people became sailors.
how many sailors were there, Philip?
How many sailors? Well, I have to go back to that.
Many Jewish people didn't go into it.
From reading in that little booklet, it seems that booklet was actually written for the sailors, and the soldiers were sort of an add-on. But it's a fascinating little booklet. Please have a look at it, enjoy it, and we will keep it here somewhere safe.
Talking about being respectful to the women is one of the Jewish dinim about going to war, isn't it? With a woman captive, etc.
They don't say
Yes.
how many.
Yes, indeed. That's a good point, Johnny. Let's make a point of that.
Only about 50 at the beginning of the war.
Okay.
There were only few in the Navy.
Okay, there are only a few in the Navy. Okay, so Johnny's made a good point that the way a Jew is meant to conduct a war is also stressed in the Torah, isn't it? That we should behave in an appropriate manner, because we have the although back in the day the norm was to take captives and booty and what have you. We have the halacha, don't we? The beginning of Parashat Ki Teitzei of the Eshet Yafat To'ar, the beautiful captive woman, who you have to treat with respect. You have to bring her back to your home. You can't just rape her in the field and leave her to there. If you want to be with this woman, then you have to treat her appropriately. You have to bring her back to your home. You have to take her in. She has to go through various process. And it was a massive chidush You know, it might seem a bit obvious to us that you treat people with respect, but back in the day, armies did not treat captive women. Even today, they don't treat captive women. You read, you know, we don't. I don't have to go into
They're
it.
not an army.
Okay, but you don't have to go into it to know what goes on in various battles. So, yes, that's a very good point, Johnny. A very good point.
We got 5 Victoria Crosses in the First World War.
Okay, let's talk now. Let's go back to our subject. I just wanted to mention that to you, that booklet, because it came into my possession, as it were, in the last week or so. So let's go back to our topic, which is the Pope and not the Pope. What's his name? Saint Peter and the Pope, actually, as you will see. The Pope and the Nishmat prayer. I'm going to hand these around. You may have to, Goldie. You may have to share one between. Yeah. On the Zoom, I'm going to try and get it up on the screen for you. Why isn't this working? Right, hang on a minute while I try and get it up on the screen for you. What I want to show you. Give me a sec. Just opening it now. One sec.
Wow. I'm actually very curious in the light of that. I'm actually very curious in the light of that. If the
Today,
if the
I just saw.
if the couple turn up.
Today,
Sorry,
I just saw.
I'm struggling to open this document for you on Zoom for some reason. I don't know why. Probably the internet's weak. Yeah, let me try using my hotspot instead. See if that makes it any easier. Just give me a moment, and then we'll. Hotspots. Oh, no, there we go. Got it now. Right. Right, there we got it on the screen. Right, let me share it with you now, guys. I've got it on the screen to share it with you. Share, hang on. Has it gone? No. There it is. No.
No, the British were always more civilized.
Maybe they're not now.
I don't know. I really don't know.
No.
Sound like we're now.
This is annoying. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. It is definitely there. One second. I'm just trying to find this for the Zoomers. Close that. Share. There we go. Right. Sorry about this delay. You should have that very shortly. Have you got it? Tell me if you've got it. You've got it. Johnny, can you see the screen?
I can see, but it's not so. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
It's
Okay.
what? Sorry.
Yes. Okay.
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 I hope you can see the screen.
Yes.
Yes.
This is a bunch of sources about the origins of the Nishmat. Okay, so Nishmat, I'll read you the top bit. I'll read you the top bit in Hebrew. Nishmat kol chai, mirav Yehuda Rab Yaakov, sherab Shimon Kifri, yasad oto, ad mi yidme lecha, umi yishve lecha. There's an opinion that Nishmat kol chai was written by this Shimon Kifri, right? Who was Shimon Kifri? Peter. Yeah, Peter. Shimon Kifri was Peter, right? Have a look in the English there on the screen there, just a little bit further down. I found the following in an old commentary to a Siddur, which was a handwritten manuscript from the year 1406 CE that follows the customs of Troyes in France. How do you pronounce that, Philip? Troyes. Troyes in France. I heard from Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Yaakov, that Rabbi Kippah composed the words of Nishmat until the words of Miach that ends at the end of Nishmat. In another commentary, I found the following language: Shimon ben Kippah, and some say Shimon ben Shetach.
Kufri also.
Shetach, that's another person completely. We'll come to that. Anna from the Mishnah composed Nishmat and included a clue to his name in the words of Nishmat, but in reverse order. The letter Shin opens the words Shochen Ad. Men in Mi Yidma, Ayin in Ad Hine Atzaranu, Vav in Ve'elufinu, Ilufinu, and Nun in Nishmat. So they have sort of engineered an acrostic which reads Shimon. Now that's a pretty weak proof that it was written by a Shimon at all, because the acrostic is pretty hidden in there. You've got to work very hard to find that acrostic. It's not like Shlomo Halevi Alphabet in Lechadodi. So it's a bit schwach. And secondly, who's to say which Shimon it was, even if it was a Shimon, which is why some people say it was Shimon ben Shetach.
Johnny, can I just interrupt for a second? The Apostle Peter has several other names and variations. Most notably, his original name, Jesus gave him the Aramaic name Kephas.
Yeah, well, this is not the one that Jesus gave him. This is the one his mother gave him or his father gave him. His bris. His name was Shimon.
That was Peter?
Yeah.
Kippah. Shimon Kippah. That was Peter. According
I'm not sure
right.
that the
Okay.
pronunciation is
Now,
correct.
Shimon Kippah or Shimon Kifri is the same person.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Now, there was a
Just
big
checking.
machloket between the authorities, the Rishonim, the early authorities, as to whether we accept that this Shimon wrote it, this Shimon who was Peter wrote it or not. So let's just have a look at that. Rabbeinu Tam. Who was Rabbeinu Tam?
Rabbeinu Tam.
Rabbeinu Tam.
Tam was the man for which sometimes you put on a second pair of tefillin.
Yeah.
That was it was named after him, after Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam.
Who was he?
I think he lived somewhere around the beginning of the Christian era, if I'm not mistaken.
You are mistaken.
Okay.
Hannah? He was Rashi's grandson.
Oh, the long
Yeah.
afterwards. I
By
think.
the way, there's a story. The grandpa was looking after his grandson, who was a baby. And he was babysitting, and he was
He
writing
dropped it.
tefillin, and he had him on his knee, and he's writing the tefillin, and this little baby apparently at the time couldn't have been very old. Tipped over the ink on the tefillin, and she okay, and he put it aside, and he started another set of tefillin. And the baby again took the bottle of ink onto the tefillin. And the third time, she said, "Okay, that's enough. This one's going to give me a problem." We have
Okay, that's an interesting story. Right. So Rabbeinu Tam was indeed Rashi's grandson. Now, which is interesting because this seems to be accepted by Rabbeinu Tam as correct that Peter Shimon Kippur wrote this Nishmat. Now, we find as early as the Machzor Vitri, which was a very early source of Siddur and Tefilah, that this idea is brought through. Now, however, his grandfather, Rashi, vigorously rejects it. Have a look at the bottom of this page here. I'm just going to scroll down for you guys. Over there, where it says section 2, rejection in earlier and later sources. V'yesh she'omrim, this is Rashi. V'yesh she'omrim, and there are those who say, al oto, and then it's got in word kabal and naval. What's a naval?
Naval is a corpse.
That's a nevela.
Ah.
Well, there's a
Is it-
negative person.
A negative
nice piece
person.
of work,
Yeah,
a nice
a
piece
negative
of work.
person.
Yeah.
Who was Naval?
He was. David killed him. David went and looked
David
after-
did not kill him.
No, David.
David wanted to kill him, but he didn't.
Abigail was his wife, and Abigail convinced him not to because David looked after his sheep and whatever. And when it came time to pay him, Naval said,
Correct.
"No."
Very good. So that is, Hannah has correctly remembered the story in Shmuel Aleph. Naval was a man whose wife was Abigail. David did a bit of protection work for him, and he didn't get paid. David was about to go and sort him out, and Abigail came and persuaded him not to. And she says, see if you can remember this, Hannah. How did Abigail prevent David from going to kill Naval?
She told him he was a good boy.
No, she said it wouldn't do him good for his reputation.
That's right. It said it won't do for you to do that. And what did she say instead would happen? Go on.
I'll do it for you.
No, she didn't say, I'll do it for you. She said,
Instead.
don't worry, God will do it for you. And what happened to Naval?
He died.
He died that night. He had a heart attack and died. Right? But why am I telling you that? Because within the story, she says he is Naval by name and Naval by nature. Naval means a despicable person, right? What is nivel peh, Philip?
Using bad language.
Using bad language is called nivel peh. Means a disgusting mouth, right? Nivel peh. It's the same root of the same word. Thank you, Philip.
Badly.
So if you look at the back onto these words again, at the bottom of the page, v'yesh shomrim, and those that say al oto naval on that about that despicable person, right? And then look what it says: Shimon Peter Chamor, right?
Peter.
Right? Shimon, and what does Rashi call him?
Donkey.
Peter Chamor. Why does he use that word? What is Peter Chamor? But yeah, what is specific? What is specifically? If you were learning Torah and you came against Peter Chamor, what would you come up? What would you be
I
learning?
know the expression Peter Rechem.
Redemption of the first animals. If you've got an animal and you want to redeem it, you can redeem it through the Peter Chamor. Okay, but what is a Chamor?
Chamor is an ass.
An
a
ass,
donkey.
right? And so this is Rashi using a play on words. He calls him that Naval, that despicable person, Shimon, that was his real name. And then he calls him Peter. Why does he call him Peter? Peter. Yeah, he got turned to Peter. And then he uses the play on words. It's a brilliant Rashi, this. Peter Chamor, he calls him an ass of a man, right? Shehi ta'ut.
But there's somewhere.
Wait. Shehi ta'ut shel Roma. The mistake. It comes from Rome. Yisdo im otot chilai. He never did anything to have anything to do with this tefillah, says Rashi. Rashi is not buying it at all. V'shah tefilot, and all the other prayers, k'shahaya al hasela, when he was on the rock. What's he talking about there on the rock?
On the rock, on Mount Sinai.
No, Peter was not on the Mount Sinai. You make it, Philip.
Sorry.
Okay, we'll come to the Selah, the rock.
It's up there a minute.
We'll come to the rock in a minute when we turn over the page a bit. Just bear in mind, it says all the other tefillahs that this Petach Hamor, this Peter, the ass, according to Rashi, wrote while he was on the rock. Yeah, you'll see in a minute what happened. V'chas v'sholom, he says, chas v'sholom, shelo tiyeh zot b'yesharim. Don't know what that means, that last word. But chas v'sholom, this is it's an abbreviation. Chas v'sholom, he says, that this Peter wrote these things. Absolutely not. Ulachol ha'umot diber, and all the people said about it, zeh k'sheyivneh beit hamikdash yu chatat. All those people who said that he wrote this prayer when the Beit HaMikdash will be rebuilt, they've got to bring a sin offering. They've got to bring a sin offering, right? And he's not happy about it. You can see Rashi is, and that's why it says at the bottom of the page, they're vigorous on this. Right?
But he says chatat and not Hashem.
Yeah, but chat. That offering is a sin offering. When you've done a sin, you have to bring a chatat.
Anybody who says this is wrong, but it's not a malicious wrong.
Oh, maybe,
It's
maybe,
not an
yeah, maybe.
intentional wrong.
Could be.
I think Rashi understood
In a
the.
person.
Okay, have a look. Have a look at the next bit. Turn over the page. I've scrolled over. I've scrolled down for the zoomers. Have a look at the next bit. This is various different piyutim who have left their mark with an acrostic. I'm not going to go into those because we've seen them. Our favorite that I always quote is Lechadodi, but there are many of the piyutim. Who is the most famous paitan whose acrostic is there all over the place?
Al-Kabas.
Ashrei.
Now, he wrote Lechadodi.
Yeah.
Ashrei.
Kalonimus Ashrei is, but it's not an acrostic of the author. That's acrostic of the Aleph base, apart from Nun. You're thinking of Kalonimus? Yes, I'm thinking of Rebbe Elazar HaKalir. He was the
For the
Yamim Noraim. Yeah, a lot of the Kinot. Rebbe Elazar HaKalir. You'll find Elazar in a lot of these acrostics. Okay, now let's have a look at the story of the apples down here. I'm going to read you this little story now. Have a look. It's on the screen for you. It's now at the bottom of page 2 of the handout that I've printed for you. After the passage of time, the quarrel between the Jews and the Christians grew to the point that when a Christian encountered a Jew, the Christian would kill the Jew. The bit above it, by the way, is about how it all started, this anti-Semitism. Started just calling Jews by bad names. But then this passage here tells us that this is how it all killing Jews. The problem grew and grew for a period of 30 years. Christians gathered by the thousands and 10,000s and interfered with the ability of Jews to travel to Jerusalem for days, causing the kind of difficulties for the Jews that the Jews had not encountered since the sin of the golden calf. When are we talking here? We're talking, this must be beginning of Christianity, so the first couple hundred years after the common era. The Jews were at their wits' end and did not know what to do. In the meantime, the number of adherents to the beliefs of the Christians was growing, right? So what the Jews were bleeding, both literally and metaphorically. They were being attacked. And more importantly, Jews were leaving Judaism and joining the Christians.
A lot of Israelis are leaving the country today. It's the same thing.
12 of their representatives traveled to 12 different nations and spread their prophecies and influenced Jews to join them. missionaries, right? They were men of renown who strengthened the belief in Jesus because they said they were his representatives. By such means, they transformed many Jewish people into adherents to Jesus. Our sages witnessed this evil, and it disturbed them greatly. Right? They were bothered. They didn't know what to do about it. And one of them said to the other, "Woe to us, for we must have sinned that in our time such an evil that was unheard of in the days of our ancestors could arise amongst the Jews." And it distressed them greatly. They didn't know what to do. They really did not know what to do. The Jews were leaving in their droves. They wept and turned their eyes to heaven and cried out, "Please, Hashem, God of the heavens, provide us with a suggestion as what to do, because we're at our wits' ends. We don't know what to do." So they prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for an Eitzah. What should they do? Our eyes are pointed towards you because innocent Jewish blood is being spilled all because of that man, Isai Ish. That's what he's referred to. That's why we don't call him by his name. It doesn't. It's the Voldemort. The Voldemort theory, right? Don't call him by his name, then he doesn't exist, right? Isai Ish, he's known as Isai Ish, that man, Isai Ish, and Rashi says Isai Naval, referring to Peter. In fact, I remember there was a big Rov in Manchester called Rav Schneebalg. Those of you who know Edgware will know his son. So Rav Schneebalg, who was a Vishnitzer Chassid, he was a Rav of Machziki Adas in Manchester, and there was one particular fellow who was not a particularly nice man. He was a bit of a mafiosi in Manchester, the Manchester Mafia, and Rav Schneebalg would never refer to him by name. He used to call him Oisai Rusha. And then he'd give his address. Oisai Rusha from such and such a road. Right? That evil person and he wouldn't use his name. The same idea, Oisai Rusha, that bad man. So here they prayed to God and said, "Well, our wits' end, we don't know what to do because of that man. Jewish blood is being spilled. Until when this will be a danger for us? You are strengthening the hold of the Christians over us. They're killing us one by one, and our number. We recognize that this is occurring due to our sin. You, out of respect for your name, tell us what to do. Share some advice so that we may be separated from the Christian community." So what they wanted to do was, and I think Colin used this expression last week, he wanted to have clear blue water between the Jews and the Christians. They wanted, the Chachamim wanted there to be a clear distinction between the Jews and the Christians. It was too blurred. The margins were being blurred here, and Jews were being lured into it. So we spoke about it a bit about it last week, about the Jews for Jesus who come along and say, "Of course we're Jewish. Of course we believe in God." Right? That kind of stuff. Anyway, so we're over the page now. After completing their plea to God, one older man from among the elders arose, and his name was Shimon Kippur. He was one of the Chachamim. He summoned a voice from heaven and said, "Listen to me, my brothers and my people. If it is acceptable to you, I will take measures to separate the Christian community from within the Jewish people. They will then no longer have any part or interest within Jewish people. I will do this only if you will agree to accept the responsibility for the sins I am about to commit." He was going to be a fifth columnist. He was going to infiltrate. He was, a Mossadnik. He was going to infiltrate the Christians and sabotage their attempts to influence the Jews from inside. Right? Listen to what he was going to do. All those present answered as one. "We accept that responsibility. Just do as you suggested." They were desperate. Shimon Kippur went into the Bet HaMikdash and recorded God's ineffable name. I'm not sure how this worked because I think the Bet HaMikdash had already been destroyed by this time, but
Ineffable name is
Could have been-
that
could have
came
been
off
the-
no?
it would have been the Churban. It must have been the Churban.
Is the ineffable name Yud Kei Vav Kei?
They know the ineffable name is the long name of a Kodesh Baruch.
yeah.
72 letters.
So he went in the Bet HaMikdash and he recorded God's ineffable name. In other words, he wrote it down. He ripped open his skin and placed the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu underneath his skin. Right? And what a story this is, right? Have you ever heard? He left the Bet Mikdash and took out what he had written and memorized God's ineffable name. He traveled to a central city of the Christians and cried out in a loud voice, listen to this, all those who believe in Jesus should come to me because I am the messenger of Jesus. This is Shimon Kippur, one of the Chachamim, right? They said to him, show us a sign. How do we know that you're a messenger of Jesus? Right? He asked them, what sign would you like to see? They responded, perform the same act that Jesus demonstrated to us in his lifetime.
Walk on water.
Shimon Kippur said, bring me a leper. Remember, Jesus healed the lepers. They brought him a leper. Shimon placed his hands on the leper, and the leper was healed. Shimon then asked him to bring a corpse. They brought a corpse. He placed his hands on the corpse, and the person came back to life. Right? Why? Because he's got Kodesh Baruch Hu's ineffable name there, right? The people witnessed these acts and prostrated themselves on the ground and said, indeed, you are the messenger of Jesus, because he performed the same acts for us during his lifetime. Shimon Kippur said to them, I am the messenger of Jesus, and he commanded me to come to you. You can see how he's got undercover here. He's an undercover agent. Jesus told me to come to you. Shimon Kippur said to them, know that Jesus hated the Jews and their Torah. His feelings were dictated by what Yeshayahu said. Isaiah, I despise your calendar and your holidays. What was Yeshayahu said? Chastising the Jews, because he said to the Jews, you're paying lip service. You're going and you're doing Rosh Chodesh and you're doing the Karbonos on Yom Tov, and God hates it. Right? Yeshayahu was saying it, Isaiah was saying it, to wake up the Jews from their fact that they were just paying lip service. They were doing it by rote. They weren't really meaning it. Jesus twisted the words of Yeshayahu, and he said, see, Isaiah said that God hates the Jews' service now. So we're abandoning the Jews. We have a new Brit now. We have a new covenant with Jesus. That's what Jesus was saying, right? He twisted the words. So Shimon Kippur quotes Jesus, who says, who quotes Jesus, who quotes Yeshayahu, who said, I despise your calendar and your holidays. Know further that God no longer favors the Jews, as Hosea prophesied, because you are no longer my nation. Although God, this is still Shimon Kippur speaking to the Christians, right? No further, although God has the power to instantly oust the Jews from the world, God does not wish to destroy them. God wants them to remain so that their suffering will be a reminder for future generations, right? This is what this Kippur is saying as a Mossadnik, right? Now, no further great suffering that Jesus endured was to rescue all of you from hell. Now Jesus admonishes and commands you not to inflict more punishment on the Jews. If a Jew asks a Christian to walk with him a mile, you should walk with him for 2 miles. If a Jew smites on the left cheek, allow him to smite you on the right as well. Why? So that the Jews will receive their reward in this world, be punished in hell in the next world. You see why he's clever, the Kippur, right? He's getting the Christians to leave off the Jews so that in their minds, the Jews will get their punishment in the next world. Says Shimon Kippur to the Christians, if you follow in that path, you will merit living near Jesus. He further you not to celebrate Passover, but rather celebrate the day of his death. When was the day of his death? When was the crucifixion?
Good Friday.
Easter, right?
Good Friday.
This is the beginning of Easter.
It was Christmas,
Good Friday.
Christmas was when he was born. Easter.
Good Friday was when he was strung up.
Good Friday.
Easter Monday.
Yeah, but it's all Easter business, right? Yeah. Easter's when he was good. Good comes from God. God's Friday. Instead of celebrating Shavuot, celebrate the 40 days from when he was stoned to when he rose to heaven. What's that called? Lent. Very good. Lent. So he was stoned, presumably, because he wouldn't have said it otherwise. He must have been stoned after he was crucified. right? Or before, I don't know. Anyway, so he says, don't celebrate Pesach, celebrate Easter. Don't Shavuot, celebrate Lent. What does this tell you? This tells you that up until this point, the early Christians were still celebrating festivals. And in fact, I heard a podcast just this very day, Rabbi Aubrey Hirsch, who is a genius. If you haven't heard his podcast, you've got to do so. They're brilliant. I listened to a podcast today, and he was talking about the calendar. And he was saying that until, and I can't remember now, I think the 4th century, they were waited. They all had to wait until they knew when Pesach was going to be, to know when they could celebrate Easter, because Pesach took place, Easter took place when? Seder night, the Last Supper. What was the Last Supper? Seder night. Yeah. And they changed it all in the 4th century. But when all this took place, and this is a proof of it, at Peter's time, they were celebrating Pesach and Shavuot like we were there. The early Christians were sort of, quasi-Jews, yeah. So he's telling, why was he doing this? Because he wanted clear blue water, what was the expression? Clear blue sky, clear blue water. Either, anyway, whatever it was, he wanted a clear separation between Jewish practice and Christian practice, so that the Jews would know that they were different. Those Christians were not Jews. So, came and tried to persuade you otherwise. So that's what he's trying to do. Now, then he's not finished yet. In place of celebrating Sukkot, celebrate his birthday, which was Christmas.
Yeah.
And on the 8th of his birth, in other words, his bris, the day of his bris, celebrate his birthday. Is that?
New Year.
New Year's Day?
Yeah.
All responded and said, these are all the Christians, said, all that you have suggested we will do, but only if you remain with us. Why? They think he's Jesus' representative, so they don't want him to go. They want to go back to wherever he's come from. So he has to stay with him now. He's stuck in him. So what do? Right? Shimon answered, I will remain with you, but only if you allow me to do as I was commanded, which was not to eat bread and water. Why did he do that? Yeah, I don't want to eat treif. So he says, no, I can only eat bread and water. In addition, says Peter, city where I will live until my day of death. He says, just leave me alone. I don't want to be with anybody else. I'm going to be on my own, right? Until the day I die. Right, okay, they answered, as you requested, we will do. Built a tower, and the tower became Shimon's home. That's the Selah. That's the rock that Rashi was referring to. When he said this Petach Hamor, it is said that this Petach Hamor wrote a whole load of tefillot on the Selah, on the rock, meaning in his ivory tower, right? Where they made this tower for him. Okay? So they built him a tower, and the tower became Shimon's home. They further fulfilled his request that they bring him only bread and water. He continuously resided within the tower. There he continued to serve the God of his forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Now here comes the main bit. He composed many liturgical poems and sent them to the 4 corners of the Jewish world, so that the poems would be a reminder in each generation of what had occurred. That is what Rashi is referring to when he says, no, he didn't. Right?
He did, yeah.
Well, according to this, he did. Rashi, where is this from? This is from Otzer HaMidrashim, Eisenstein, Shimon Kippur, Amud 557. It's from the censored text. It's from the Otzer HaMidrashim, some midrash somewhere.
Johnny, where was this tower? What country?
Probably the Basilica.
In Rome.
Possibly Rome. It says one of the main city of the Christians. It might
further down.
It says Roman.
A bit
Could
further
be.
down.
A bit it says it was Rome?
Exactly.
Okay. So apparently a bit further down it says it was Rome. Earlier on it says it was the main city of the Christians. Let's just carry on. So according to this, he composed many liturgical poems, sent them to the 4 corners of the Jewish world, so that the poems would be a reminder reminder in each generation of what had occurred. All the poems he composed, he sent to his teachers. Shimon resided within the tower for 6 years and then he died. He ordered that upon his death, he be buried in the tower, and they complied with his wishes. Why do you want to be buried in the tower?
Because it doesn't want to be buried with the goyim.
Don't want to be buried with the goyim, correct? Right, so he's buried in this tower now, right? Later, they built upon it a great edifice. That edifice is still found in Rome, and they call it
The rock.
Peter
Peter's
Rock.
Basilica.
Rock
Is
in
that
brackets.
Basilica?
That is the name of a rock upon which his home rested until the day of his death. Shion Kippur remained in the tower by himself and composed many edicts, and the non-Jews accepted them. At the same time, he composed many liturgical poems for the Jewish people, and all of them are known by his name. He wrote to the Jewish people, "Know, house of Israel, who believes in God and in his perfect Torah, that it is a true Torah, and the Jewish people represent God's nation. I, Shimon Kippur, who suffers all of these difficulties out of love for God, know the difference between truths and untruths. Please accept my liturgical poems that I have composed so that God will forgive me and you. All that I have done for your tranquility and your safety. Accept my compositions with joy and send them to the head of the diaspora, and show my liturgical poems to the heads of the yeshivot and the Sanhedrin." All remarked how well written and pleasant were the poems. It is appropriate that prayer leaders recite them during prayer service. Even until today, it is customary to recite the poems during prayer service on each and every Shabbat. This Shimon Kippur is also the one known as Saint Peter. What an amazing story that is.
Oi.
No? An amazing story. An amazing story. So I actually put this, I don't know if I've already done it. I'll check whether I've done it or not. If I haven't, I'll put that on the Tefilah group so you can all have it. Have already done it? Okay, so it's on the Tefilah group if you want to refer to it again at some time in the future. The most amazing story. Now, did he really write it? Who knows? But actually, I would like to suggest to you that it doesn't actually matter whether he did or he didn't. Somebody, somewhere along the line, thought it was a possibility and wrote this story. To me, it doesn't matter whether he did it or he didn't. What it shows us is the lengths to which the Chachamim, maybe it's apocryphal or maybe it isn't, but the lengths to which the Chachamim were prepared to go in order to separate themselves from the early Christians who were making really strong inroads into the Jewish people. And it's an incredibly powerful story.
Different interpretation of something.
One sec. Let me just finish this thought, and then I'll come to you, Hannah. So this sort of legend, as it were, is that what is Nishmat about? We'll see when we start to go through the wording a bit next week. That it's about gratitude to Hashem. It's about overflowing gratitude. You'll see there's one bit of it that says, actually, it's impossible for us to praise God sufficiently. Ilu, Pinu, Ilu, Male, Shira, even if our mouths were full of the praise, as much as the sea, we'll see when we get to it, we can't praise God enough. So it's about overflowing gratitude. Okay? Now, Christianity also centers gratitude, praise, redemption. What this prayer is saying, if you accept the origins of Peter, is that even if the Christians praise God, right? Even if the Christians praise God, should know that praise is ours, right? It comes from us. Now, there was this rabbinic resistance to this. We've seen Rashi absolutely not having it at all. But we can say, very interesting story, but actually doesn't matter one way or the other. What we say is that It's not really about whether Peter wrote Nishmat or not. Nishmat is about thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our way, not in a way of the Christians. Maybe the story is there to teach us to be careful how we pray and to be sure that we are separating ourselves from incorrect methods of prayer. Now that brings us further through to later on when our prayers started to get changed. The Christians wanted to change stuff, right? And then we come later on, many centuries later, to the Jews that wanted to change things. And I have always argued that halakha and prayer have been dynamic and can change, but they have to change with one fact on the ground, which is a red line that can't be crossed. And that's where reform, which I was referring to earlier on, crossed that line. And that is that Torah Moshe mi Sinai. We believe that Torah was given to Moshe at Sinai, the divine origins of the Torah. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that the halachot within the what was given to Moshe cannot dynamize, because they do, and they have, and they will. Okay. And if you're really interested, I'm giving a talk in March in Young Israel of North Netanya on this whole subject, on how the halacha has been dynamic. But once you cross that red line and say, Torah Moshe is not from Sinai, we did not get the Torah at Sinai, it's not of divine origin,
We've got problems.
perhaps the whole point about this story of Nishmat is not whether Peter wrote it or not, but the fact that Jews saw fit to argue about it. Some accept it, some don't accept it. And what this prayer is telling us, perhaps, under the surface with this story, is telling us who we are, and perhaps more importantly, who we are not. And that could be, maybe the deepest Jewish gratitude is not certainty, but faith and fidelity. Maybe that.
Loyalty, yeah.
Loyalty. Okay, so that's I felt that I needed to go through all of that because it's such a fascinating story, and so much depth in there, and so much to think about, that I wanted to spend some time doing that. So please God, next time, unless Colin or somebody else comes up with another digression, but if it's as good as that one, I really don't mind, because I think frozen on Zoom. So
Yes.
the answer to that is no. Any
Johnny,
questions or comments in the room?
Do you think that because it comes
Johnny?
after periods of things, rather than at the beginning,
One sec, Jackie.
rather than that midrash nearer the time?
Okay, that's an excellent point of Jeff's. Jeff has asked, do we think that Rashi's vigorous rejection of this origin of this prayer is because of the historical context of Rashi? Rashi lived when? In the 11th century. What happened at the end of the 11th century in 1096? The Crusades began.
Crusades.
Okay, and Rashi was right in the firing line. Rashi lived right in the firing line of Northern Europe, where the Crusades were rampaging. So I think that is absolutely the case. I think that Rashi wanted absolutely nothing to do with the Christians. And if this story were to be true, then it tainted that prayer as far as Rashi was concerned, because the Christians were just about as evil as you could get in Rashi's time. Now, what you see is this is a fascinating comparison. If you look at the comparison between Rashi, who lived in the he lived in the 11th century and into the 12th century, and the Rambam, who was not far behind him, you see a completely different approach. Rambam did not live in a Christian world. The Rambam lived in a Muslim world, right?
In Spain,
Lived in a Muslim world, right? Which was much more tolerant of Jews in those days than was the Christian world. Rashi is very inward looking. Rashi looks very much within everything in Judaism. He looks into every letter of every word in Sfarim, and has nothing to do with the outside world, because the outside world that he lived in was Christian and rotten, whereas Rambam, who lived in a similar time period, lived in a Muslim world which was much more open, and he's much more open to the outside world. Aristotle, particularly, he was a big fan of. You see Greek philosophy infiltrated into the Rambam's works, which is why some of Christian Europe were very anti-Rambam. Of course, Rambam's works were burnt as heretical by Jews. So you're fascinating. So you're absolutely right, Jeff. I'm sure that we have to look at Rashi's rejection of this in its historical context. Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments or questions? Jackie, you wanted to say something?
I was only on a
Jackie
lighter
is
note.
frozen,
Can you hear me?
so we will have to
No, can you
forego
hear me?
Jackie's comments.
No,
Okay.
can't hear me.
I'm just going to close it all. Thank you all for listening. Oh, Jackie, you're there?
Yes, I'm here.
No, you're not there.
Can
Okay.
you hear me?
Oh, you are there.
Can you hear me? Well,
Go on.
on a lighter note,
No,
I
you're
was
not
just going
there.
to say,